Well, good morning everybody and welcome back to another film. So today I'm at a brand new location, somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I think not far actually from where I live. The weather, let's look at those trees behind me, look at those young birches really blowing, and some more mature ones in the background. I think the forecast today is not going to be kind to me. Often they get it wrong, but I really do think given the wind, I think the bad weather is rolling in. Forecast rain quite heavily in the next couple of hours, so I'm going to have to try and make today's session quick. So I just wanted to quickly talk about my approach to an outing, and when I say that I don't mean a multi-day outing, I mean a single day outing, which is what I've got this morning. I think there's an idea that I generally look for small scenes, macro above everything else, which isn't actually the case. When I come out, everything's on the table for me. I have a full range of lenses in the bag, everything from wide angle through to a fairly reasonable telephoto lens. What I generally do today, for example, we got quite a strong wind and very flat overcast light. I adjust my ideas to meet those conditions. So I'm thinking movement, and I am thinking close-up scenes. The larger picture clearly isn't going to work on a day like today, so much more intimate, not necessarily macro, but certainly more intimate, perhaps moving towards macro if the need arises or I find something that I particularly like. I'm going to move into woodland because whilst this grassland behind me looks really nice, lots of knapweed heads here, which says to me that it's quite a nice grassland, maybe worth coming back in the summertime. I'm going to go into the woods because we are in autumn, or so we'd like to think. Autumn this year is probably 2, maybe even 3 weeks late, and it's certainly the case. Look at the trees, lots of them are still quite green, although the birches are certainly turning more autumn colour. So I'm going to head into the woods now, but I just wanted to clear that up, just so you know that I don't always look for the small scenes. That's not always what my intent is. The big scene is always first on the list, but I think you'll find that if you adapt to conditions and have a macro lens with you, perhaps you will find that on most days you won't be stuck for something to photograph. So let's get in there now. I think I've chosen a path. I could either go that way or this way, but this way behind the camera goes straight into the woods. So let's get on with that. I will see you in a second. Right, so I've walked down just from the little hillside at the back, and I've walked round and come to here, and what drew my eye from the top of the bank was just along this edge of the pond that I've found is a lot of oak leaf litter. Now the wind is a problem. I've been watching them and they are moving. Sometimes they're moving a lot and sometimes they're moving a little. I'm not really a big fan of racking the ISO up to try and get sharp images because I feel that I can't stand and really take in the composition when things are moving around. I like to get something that's exactly right and know that it's going to be right for the whole time that I'm working with it. So this is a bit of a tricky one. I know that you can move with leaves moving, like for example in an eddy of a river or stream where the leaves will move around slowly in an area of slack water. These are more random in the way they're moving, so I'm not sure that they would form such an appealing pattern. But I'm probably just going to have a few minutes just watching them and trying to come up with a plan as to whether I can make something of it. They certainly look nice to the naked eye, and whether a polarizer, maybe even thinking on my feet now, could blacken the water and you just get the leaves and with the black patches in between, something like that. But obviously a polarizer is going to increase the shutter duration, which is not ideal on a day like this. I have to say the colours really nice, and they look even stronger on this camera. I must have the white balance set to cloudy because to the naked eye they're not as strong as what they appear on camera. But I digress. Let's have a look at these leaves and see if I can make something of them. So after much deliberation, the camera is set up and I've taken a shot. I just want to quickly talk you through what I've done in the last few minutes to arrive at where I am now. So I tried to take a shot at a composition that I liked out in the water, but as predicted, it was moving too quickly and the composition was changing within seconds of me framing something up. So I thought I would go for a slow shutter speed just to see what happened. So I put a 6-stop neutral density filter on, and my exposure time was 20 minutes. Well, I just don't have that time today. The rain is certainly on its way, so I opted for a 3-stop, and that was giving me results that, whilst I was getting the movement in the water, the effect wasn't very pleasing. The leaves are moving one way, then moving the other, so you get this sort of jagged sort of effect. I'll put a quick version of what I got on the side now, just over to my right hand side. I didn't like that, so what I've done is I've gone right in close to the bank with the camera. The leaves close in aren't moving anywhere near as much, and I stand a better chance. The flip side is that I can't find a composition that I truly love, but the polarizers work well, the water is nice and black, and it's a nice effect and it's highly detailed. I'm at f16, I'm still at 800 ISO and 1/5 of a second, so I will put that on now and then go and try and find something a little bit more manageable. Change of scenery. So when I was doing the shot just in the woods there by the pond, there was something in the back of my mind that was just really niggling me, and I just couldn't put it to bed. So I've come back out onto the grassland. Given that we haven't got many weeks through the period of autumn colours, I just couldn't risk not coming back to this today in case I don't get back to it within a couple of weeks. So I might as well show you what I'm talking about. Here, caught my eye when I was talking earlier on. So that behind me there is a goat willow, and it's just re-established itself since this land was probably something else at some stage, which I'm not sure of, but it's your typical what they called open mosaic habitat, where you've got lots and lots of different types of things. You've got grassland, you've got trees, you've got scrub, all sorts of things in various stages of transition. And obviously this is a stage that eventually works its way up to woodland, to climax vegetation as they call it. And I just love the colours, the greens and the yellows, and there's an equal mix of both. The sticks, the stalks, obviously that the leaves are on, worry me a little bit as to whether they'll be too much of a distraction, but I've got to get the camera out and have a look. I may go for a sharp image, I may go for an abstract. While the wind's blowing, it's ideal for trying stuff like that, and go for something a bit more impressionistic. So let's get the camera out and give it a go. Right, so the camera's ready to go. I'm just waiting for the breeze to pick up, and then I'll start taking some images. 100mm macro is perfect for this scene. I've got the camera nice and high, so I'm looking down so I can try and exclude the strands, the main branches of the shrub. Polarizer on the front serves two purposes. One, it gives me a slightly longer exposure, and it's removing the reflective surface off some of the greener leaves. They've got like a waxy surface to them. Shutter speeds and aperture, I'm on f9.5, 100 ISO and 1/3 of a second. Like I say, that's just about right for the amount of movement that I've got today. Focusing point, I've focused somewhere in the middle of the shrub, because I felt that the front and rear portions would work nicest as the softest out of focus parts, and the more contrast would be in the centre. It looks really nice. It's almost like ICM in reverse. the subject's moving but the camera's static, and it's a bit like when you're photographing at the coast and you've got the waves moving in and out and you're trying to get the best one. You just take a lot, and you end up with one that you'll like above all else, and that's generally the one that you stick with. When I present this, I'll probably put it on as just a straight shot, but I will also most likely put it on with a white mount. I often feel that this type of image works well when it's displayed, as it would be as a nice piece of artwork, which brings me on to the ideas I get for this sort of work comes from mostly an artist by the name of Jackson Pollock. If you've not heard of him, go and look him up. He's got some lovely impressionistic natural paintings that really inspire me when I'm out looking for subjects, and certainly this has been partly the inspiration for this, having a go at this today. So once I get the breeze and I'm happy with a shot, I'll take a few, but you're going to see the best one now. So I've just seen something quite interesting just behind the camera. I'll put this camera down and then you can see, and I'll bob over and just show you. So just down here, if I can sneak in, if you can see it on the camera, hopefully you can, we've got a ring of fungus. So it starts here, a little bit more sparse down the bottom, but a nice strong ring of them at the back, forming a almost perfect circle. And this is called a fairy ring or elf ring. And what happens is that a single fungus has produce some spores that are down in the ground, and from those spores spread out these mycelium strands, and these are like white veins that are found beneath the floor all around the forests and in grasslands where funguses occur. And basically what happens, they fan out, and generally about a year after the fungus originally found its spot, you get these rings that start to appear of funguses that spread out from the ends of the mycelium strands. These can become huge over many, many years, covering many, many meters in diameter. And this is a relatively small one and a new one, and if you were to come back here next year, you'd find it again slightly wider. But interestingly, they're called elf rings or fairy rings. This woodland, I seem to find chairs everywhere. Just one just now literally sat in the base of a tree, and I'm beginning to wonder whether elves and fairies actually do exist, particularly in this woodland. But certainly the fairy rings do. But what a nice find. I haven't seen that for a few years. I'm afraid there could be a bit of a theme developing here. Just look at that gorgeous mature beech tree. Absolutely stunning. And of course, naturally this time of year the floor is filled by those lovely copper tones interspersed by some lighter yellow ones as well, the fresher leaves that haven't turned fully yet. Does anybody mind if I do another forest floor photograph? I'm just going to have to. We'll just pop that there. There's a good little spot there where there's no gaps and looks like it would make a nice composition. One or two other places about, but that one is really nice and filled with leaves and colour. But I just wanted to talk about this beautiful character just here. It seems a shame not to mention it, considering it forms the backdrop to the shot. So in my last video but one, 2 videos ago, I talked about a birch tree and the size of that in order to become classed as a veteran tree, and I'll put a link above to that video. The beech trees have got to be enormous to be classed as veteran, and this one's getting there. If I stand alongside it and do my usual hugging bit, you can get an idea of size. I'm, as I've said previously, about 1.6, 1.7 metres, not sure exactly, but you can see how far that comes. I did a bit of a rough measurement before, and I'm guessing around about 4.5 metres, but you'll probably be able to tell better by looking at where my arms come to on the tree. It is fairly cylindrical, it doesn't come out bigger at the other side. It's a pretty good circle all the way around, so that what you see here is a good representation of what it's like all the way around. But interestingly, birch trees 2 metres to be classed as veteran. They talk generally with beech that they need to be 6 metres, and you can even get them bigger than that. So not quite there yet, still maybe classed as a youngster, but really is it? It's probably been here for a long time. I reckon it's approaching 120, 130 years, and all around the base you've got these marks. More prominent here, you can see where people have inscribed the name on it, and typically the marks only go up so high, so all these marks down here are definitely old names that have healed over. So this tree has been around and been a friend to many people for many years. All the marks go all the way around it, and just a little higher up you can start to see bits of names. But certainly been here longer than most of the other trees in here. There is another one just over there to the left, but I don't think that's as big or significant as this one. But gorgeous. Let's get on with this shot. So finally I've got an image that I'm really quite happy with. I've taken the shot, so I know I've got it. If the wind blows really strong now, everything's not just going to go flying and it's going to ruin my composition. So I've got it, it's in the bag. When I compose a scene like this, I'm always looking for things that stand out, anomalies within the shot. And once I find those, they become my focal point, and I often use radial filters to direct your attention to that focal point, just like we do on larger scenes with radial filters with pathways, just to direct the viewer's eye through. And it's the same here. I never build shots. I'm just looking for bits of beech mast. There's beech mast, which are the husks from the seeds from the trees that have fallen, and I tried to compose a shot with some of this in it, but I couldn't find one that I felt comfortable with. When I try to put these in and photograph them with them in, they just never look right. I'm never comfortable with them. It just screams out contrived, and it matters not to me whether other people don't know and they've been fooled by it. I will always know, and I will never be comfortable with it. So unless I can find one that's got the beech mast in or something else in that's there as nature intended it, I won't photograph it. Sometimes I'll move little strands just out of the way. Sometimes I don't see them. If you remember a couple of videos ago, I found a clump of herb, but the less said about that, the better. But in this instance, and I'll show you on the back of the camera now, we've got some nice arrangements of the beech leaves, and just in the middle there's, or just off centre, there's a beech leaf that's upturned and it's peppered with little holes. And that leaf in itself, whilst it's different with the holes, it's also different in its coloration, and that's the anomaly that I'm looking for within the scene. There's a critical height with this sort of shot. I always find it's certainly critical for me. If I get the camera too high, then there's too many leaves in and it looks too messy. and then if you get too low there's not enough in and the composition looks too tight. I don't know whether that's just a personal thing, but I have a critical height that's right for me, and I've got the camera on it now. And as I've said before, you need to make sure the sensor plane is parallel, or at least as close to parallel as you can get. I'm photographing this one at f/19, and currently we are on 20-second exposure. It's really quite dull in here at the moment, but I really quite like that, so I'll put that on now. Have to see this. Would you take a look at that? So this is honey fungus growing on a silver birch within what's called the epicormic growth. Epicormic growth is very common with lime trees and also birch trees, but often, and I could be mistaken if I think possibly all the time, it's a sign that the tree is under stress, and certainly is the case in this instance because we've got the fungus growing on it, so it definitely is under stress in this case. What a beautiful find. I did see some other fungus growing on another tree back there, probably about 20-30 yards back, and but nothing quite like this. And I've often found that once you find a patch in a woodland where there's fungi growing, if the little patch that you haven't found isn't to your liking, the chances are, because of the microclimate, you'll find other fungi in that particular area. So it's definitely worth investigating and not walking too quickly out of a particular area. So I'll get the camera out and we shall have a look at framing this one up. So the camera is in position top right of frame, as you can see. Now for this shot I've gone extremely tight into the composition. There's lots of sticks sticking out and twigs that really don't add anything to the frame. I've not included any of the woodland behind because it's not an environmental portrait, and little bits of the corner of the frame clipping with just the background of the woods showing would not add anything to the overall scene. Now this is a stack. I've started with this mushroom here, and I've taken a series of 5 going all the way back until I think I can get complete sharpness front to back. I'm at f/19, so I didn't need a huge amount of images to get this in full sharp focus. The composition I've arranged so you've got the nice big mushrooms at the top that get gradually smaller as they move down the frame, but it's very, very much an abstract picture with lots of patterns and texture and tones. I've put a polarizer on the front of the lens. Just the front edge of the caps I found were just catching a bit of highlights from the sky above. It's not had a massive effect, but it has reduced it a little bit. So I'll put that on now and I will see you in a second. some really interesting finds in this wood, I have to say. I've no idea what that might have been. Part of me thinks it might have been an old railway line, but I'm not sure. It's always great coming to a new woodland for the first time. It's complete voyage of discovery, and I have no idea where I am. I need to look at my phone and find out where I parked, so I'm just wandering in a random direction right now, but I am going to leave it there. It's been a great day and I've enjoyed myself here. I will certainly be back. Let me know in the comments below what you think of today's images. I am going to put them on, I think, sticking my neck out here, as a triptych, because I seem to think I've got 2 vertical compositions and 1 horizontal, so they may work well together as a set. As always, please subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and give it a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the film. That's always useful, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.